All right, guys, welcome to Wide Awake News Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. It is the 14th day of January, Monday, 2013. And joining me here in just a second is Rob from the Preparedness Podcast. Always a excellent program when he's on. I am trying to decide if we want to open it up to phone calls or not. Let's see how it goes. Because I think Rob and I are going to have a lot to talk about this hour, especially on the topic that if you're watching on JTV, then you know that we are probably going to get into this gun control, freedom decimation argument that's going on right now. I apologize to the Justin TV folks for moving back and forth. I'm sure Gary's freaking out right now, controlling the program. If you are listening and not in the chat room, please join the folks in chat. You can go to wideawakenews.com, click on the Wide Awake microphone in the right-hand side, and that'll take you right into the chat. You can watch us do this live on Justin TV, although tonight you're just going to get to see me live, and you'll see the logo for the Preparedness Podcast, as we do not have Rob live on camera. All right, I'm about to put out a video. I did the commentary video earlier before the program tonight. First of all, let me make this announcement. Thank you to Gary Hendershot hosting the first hour, Alternative Energy Hour, as he does every Monday, 5 o'clock West, 8 o'clock East. If you were listening to Gary and you want to hear more Smart Scarecrow program, you can listen to him Thursday nights, 5 o'clock West, 8 o'clock East. You can either just type in Smart Scarecrow in your browser, or you can go to Justin TV, type in Smart Scarecrow there, and again, his program runs a minimum of 2 hours every Thursday night, 5 o'clock West, 8 o'clock East, and we appreciate Gary taking his time. Other than that, to produce the program and put these videos up live out on Justin TV as well as up on YouTube later on. All right. Like I said, I was working on a video, looking at some stats, looking at some figures, and I don't really know how much longer I'm going to be able to do these videos without some kind of reprisal. I know that my name has been turned into, this group that was allegedly sponsoring the president, people that were outcast talking smack about this administration or their policies or the agenda. I know for a fact, because I had a confirmation email sent to me, that we were turned into that. I know the website has been. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to exchange information and ideas freely before we're cubbyholed into one group or another. It's not coincidental that you're hearing a lot of talk with this gun control about mental health. Look, the powers that be, the mainstream media, can take anybody that they want to and make them look like any group, any segment, and make that group or segment look like they do not deserve to have the same rights that you deserve to have. They're masters at doing this. Look what they did with Alex Jones. Look at anytime you have a newscaster out there, they try to find the lowest common denominator that's going to give the most shocking answer so that they can broadcast that on their airwaves. And they are doing the exact same thing. This is why you hear so many people, especially in the power elite circles, talking about mental health, mental illness. And they're drawing a correlation to gun owners and mental illness. They're drawing a correlation to preppers, mental illness, gun owners. They're drawing a correlation to people who support Ron Paul, mental illness, gun owners. They're drawing a correlation to anybody that talks about liberty or tyranny or you name it in this community. The truth movement, 9/11 truthers, birthers. Any of these folks are being talked about with this slant of being just borderline mentally ill. It's not a coincidence at all that this dialogue is going on now as we talk about gun control legislation, who should own a gun, the deeper, harder, more intrusive background checks, the hard look at the mental stability of the people buying these guns. Look, we have a system right now, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of TSA agents running around upholding the law, allegedly protecting us from terrorism. There's 1 million plus people on a no-fly list, right? There's 1 million plus people on the no-fly list. We don't know how they got there. If you end up on it, you don't know how to get off of it. That isn't even the depth of the intrusion of government. There's also a guest list that I did air quotes for those of you not watching on Justin TV. There's a guest list of folks who are not quite bad enough to be on the no-fly list, but they've managed to make another list anyway. The legislation that's being proposed, the legislation that's being paid lip service to, in my opinion, I see this developing into nothing more than a no-buy list. You can end up on this list, you won't know how you got on this list, and you sure as hell won't be able to get off of any kind of list that prevents you from buying a gun in this country. This is not our government, right? Freeman Byrd had it right the other night. He was on here. This government is not our government. It is their government. They're being the power elite. They're being the financial special interest. James Fox, Boston University criminologist, wrote an article where he stated the vast majority of people who are cut down, murdered, and killed by somebody brandishing a gun, the vast majority of them are killed by somebody that they know. Grant Dewey, criminologist, wrote a book on mass murders in the United States of America. What year would you guess that mass murders in the United States peak in this country, when mass murders peaked in this nation? Do you think maybe 2011, 2012? Because, we had the Aurora, we had the Congressman Gifford shooting, we had the Sandy Hook shooting. It must be now, right? 1929, mass shootings peaked in the United States. There was a slight uptick between the decades of the 60s and 90s, but it actually dropped in the 2000s. The facts are this. In the 80s, 32 mass shootings. In the 90s, 42 mass shootings. In the 2000s, the first decade of the 2000s, 26 mass shootings. Let me break it down, and then we'll get Rob on here. You're more likely to get hit by a bolt of lightning than you are to be involved and killed in a mass shooting. That is, of course, if you live in the United States. If you happen to live in Pakistan, or if you happen to live in Afghanistan, well, the odds aren't so good in that case. Pakistan, 176 children killed by drone strikes in Pakistan last year. 176. Rob, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, man. I was getting a really weird sound. 176 children butchered prosecuting the war on terror in Pakistan last year. How many Sandy Hooks is that? Well, it's about 9. 9 Sandy Hooks. That was done in your name, by the way. If you're listening to me right now and you happen to live in the United States or any other Western nation that's involved in prosecuting a war on terror that's been going on now for nearly 13 years. 8.8 Sandy Hooks happened in Pakistan last year. That happened in your name. How about Afghanistan? 4.8 children a day in 2012 were killed again in our name. All right, enough about that. I'm worried that I'm losing signal here. Rob, for Preparedness Podcast, thank you very much for joining us again tonight. I hope you are well.
It's my pleasure. I am well, and I hope you are well as well.
Don't you hate when you verbally paint yourself into a corner like that?
Yeah, it happens. It happens a lot. I have the benefit of pre-recording my shows, and so I can go back and redo them, and it's amazing at how many times I mispronounce words. My wife sits here, she listens, and she's like, "Really? Is that how you want to pronounce that?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Go listen." So I back it up and I listen. And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. I have my youngest brother is a flippin' genius, which is handy sometimes, but most of the times it's just a pain in the neck because he'll listen to me do a video or the radio program, and he'll do the same thing. He'll call me up afterward and pick apart everything I said, and nothing drives me crazy more than that, and he's always right. I always mispronounce.
Well, isn't that what brothers are for?
Yeah. So he can be smart.
I have this bad habit of saying X specially. Now I don't hear it when I say it, but I got a couple listeners that they write in comments. They're like, "Hey, there's no X in that word."
Yeah.
So, but I don't. It must be my Chicago accent because I don't even hear it.
Mine is alls. When I say alls. Like alls we need is, instead of all we need is, I throw an S at the end of alls. And there's no such word. So, all right, that was fun. Well, we're going to be back with Rob for Preparedness Podcast, more Wide Awake News Radio, right after these messages. Hang tight. Welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Hello to all the Rinse Radio listeners as well as the Oracle Broadcasting radio listeners. If you want to join the 50-plus folks we have in chat, wideawakenews.com. You can join them there. We have 30 plus watching us on Justin TV. You can access that feed from the chat room as well. Rob from the preparedness. I keep screwing this up. The preparedness podcast.com is your website, correct?
Yep.
The preparedness podcast.
Yeah, but it's still spelled the same. The preparednesspodcast.com.
All you need to do is type in the preparedness podcast. See, I use alls there.
Actually, not even that. You could probably go any search engine and type in preparedness podcast, and I'd probably be the number one result right there. So
that's because
easy as pie.
Easy as pie. Yeah, that's because you're number one. All right, I want to give this out because I have to start doing this for you guys because I get reminded that this is professional radio etiquette here to give the schedule out for the next day. Tomorrow, Eric Lovely and myself, hour number one, followed by Bob Fletcher. Now we had Bob on last week, and we got as with Bob sidetracked. And tomorrow night's going to be an interesting program. And maybe we'll have Eric on for both hours and Bob the second, but definitely Eric first hour, Bob Fletcher second hour. Wednesday, Greg Manarino and Matt Widener are going to be the guests. Matt Widener is going to be fit to be tied when he's on this program. He's the advocate lawyer, and this new deal that came out for all the two bigs on how they're getting away from any liability for foreclosure. He is going to be on fire, I'm more than sure. So right now we have Rob of the preparednesspodcast.com, and we're talking about, I started off talking about gun control. Rob, I asked you this for the program. I mean, you're a prepper, and this is originally why you're coming on here, but how on earth would you prepare? I mean, do you bury? Do you go out now? I mean, there's mad rush of people out right now trying to get their 30-round AR-15 magazines or AK magazines, thinking that they're going to be done away with, and maybe they're right, maybe they're not right. I think the grab, just like everything else we've experienced in this last decade, everything else that we've experienced should teach us that what we're used to happening as far as intrusive government is going to be far, far outdone. It ain't going to be $1 billion bailout to Chrysler like Iacocca got. It's going to be trillions of dollars of bailouts to the financial special elite. It isn't going to be a little bit of intrusion of your freedom. It's going to be a rewriting of the Constitution with the Patriot Acts and National Defense Authorization Act, those type of things. It isn't going to be the Brady bill. It's going to be, oh my God, we got to save the children, a gun grab like proportions, I believe.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Good. Tell me why. I want to hear this.
Because there are millions of people who own guns, and there are tens of millions of guns in this country. That's why we have them. So, I mean, we went through this in the 90s, and it's going to be scary. It isn't going to be easy, but we had this debate, long ago. How do you prepare for the gun grab, the government confiscation? How do you prepare for a tyrannical government? Do we bury our guns? If we bury them, when do we unbury them? Well, if you're going to bury them, you might as well sell them. Because if you're not willing to stand up now, then when are you going to stand up? People are like, well, aren't you afraid to speak out against the government? Nope. Let them know that I'm pissed. Let them know my name. Let them know your name. Let them know everybody. You know what? You were talking before about being put on the no-fly zone. Good. Put me on the no-fly zone. Put everybody on the no-fly, not the no-fly zone, the no-fly list. Put everybody. You can't put everybody on there. At some point, you're going to reach a critical mass, and it's going to be over. You can only push so far before the population's like, enough is enough. We're willing to be tolerant. We're willing to be flexible because we understand that some people don't like guns and people are afraid of them and they're fearful of them. Fine. We'll go ahead and we'll be a little bit flexible on the shall not be infringed because you know what? Compromise is what people do. You have to compromise in business relationships. You have to compromise in marriage. You have to compromise in everything. There is no absolutes in life. You have to compromise and be flexible. Fine. I think we've been flexible. But you know what? If I fall on somebody's list in the government as being a rabble-rouser, fine. let them know that I'm not going to be afraid of them. I'm not going to be scared to stand up and speak my mind. And if they don't like it, too bad. Go come and take me and take me away. You know what? You can only do that so many times before, guess what? Either A, there isn't enough room. What are you going to do? Or you're going to hit a critical mass and people are like, no. This is just not happening anymore. It ain't going to happen.
Great way to stand up for yourself. And I want to talk about that a little bit more on how the boiling frog technique may be used or an outright grab, and how it looks to me like an outright grab is what's on deck. We're gonna break that down a little bit more, Rob. We'll be back with Rob of the Preparedness Podcast and more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes, guys. Please hang tight. Welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Charlie McGrath, your host, along with Rob of the Preparedness Podcast. Even though we haven't talked anything prep yet, I still think we're talking about a very critical, important, timely issue, which is this push for gun control. And I know we saw Rob. I know we saw the same thing in the '90s. I remember this. I remember the Brady bill. I remember the inability to buy a 30-round magazine or some of the lingering effects of the Brady bill are still around. But in 2004, most of it lapsed and went by the wayside. I really am not overly concerned with the ability of anybody listening right now, and this is the insidious nature of how this, I think, is going to work. Eric was on last week talking about if you die, your guns go to the government. This kind of verbiage is being bantered about. I think that the average person in this country is going to be able to buy a gun. It isn't like you're going to only be able to buy a single shot 22 or a single shot 410 shotgun. I think you're going to be able to go out and buy a gun. What is extremely troubling to me is the depths of paperwork and the depths of intrusion in your personal life that is going to commence when you try to affect that transaction. The level of paperwork and the ability of tracking individuals, tracking everybody is truly something that is the government is able to do at this point in time. They couldn't do that in the 90s. They couldn't do it at the beginning of the 2000s. Some of this language that they're talking about, the mental health, beating home the mental health issue. And as I opened at the beginning of the program, are you a mental health concern if you support Ron Paul? Because we were told that the MIAC report told us that these are potential domestic terrorists. So when the language comes out about this sharing of information between federal, local, state law enforcement agencies, knowing full well the build out of the fusion centers, the build out of the security state. To me, that's where the destruction of freedom comes in. Go ahead, go buy your Mossberg 12 gauge pump. When you buy it, have no illusion about the fact that is known about weapon as Lee Harvey Oswald's weapon he used in the Kennedy assassination. They know everything about everybody at any time. So regardless if you buy a shotgun or you buy a handgun, you are going to be tagged. You are going to be known about. You are going to be on somebody's list. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's just something we're going to have to learn to live with. I don't mean accept it, but at some point there's got to be a pushback. And we've had give and take. We have actually, I think, more gun freedoms today than we had 10, 20, 30 years ago, because we have all the CCWs that are around right now. I mean, the state of Arizona, I can carry a gun openly. I can carry a gun concealed without a permit, or I could carry a gun concealed with a permit. And so, I mean, I never had that freedom. I mean, the ability to carry concealed without a permit is just like in the last year or so. And so a lot of states are having some great laws passed. We have the Castle Doctrine type laws passed in many states. Tennessee passed a law a couple years ago that basically said hey, federal government, if a gun is made in this state, sold in this state, and stays in this state, you have no jurisdiction over it, so get out.
Yeah, Montana has similar legislation.
Yeah, and there's a couple others there, and we need to keep pushing states' rights. Those of you, anybody who is politically motivated, has the political gene, so to speak, or is good in that sort of realm, you need to be working for states' rights. The states' rights are what I think is our last bastion before anything nasty would have to happen before we can get our rights back. The states have the ability to say, no, federal government, get out. Sorry, just not going to happen. Because after that, what's left? We have a Supreme Court ruling that basically says, yeah, the Second Amendment is a individual guarantee, but they put a caveat on there that says we can talk about the details later. So what are those details going to be? I think the point, though, is don't take the standpoint of, well, we need to hunker down and go into a defensive position. No, you can't do that anymore. You have to be out there. You have to basically say, look, if you don't like guns, fine. You don't like guns, but don't you dare regulate what guns I can own. And you can't even ask the question why I would need them, because if you have to ask the question, you just don't get it. But you don't get the right to tell me what to do. We cannot sit down and take it anymore. It's gotten to that point, and everybody has to do their part. So that's why I said those people who are politically orientated or politically see, I'm not a very political person. I don't understand the system all that well, and I can't really motivate a lot of people to go to a rally or something. But there are people that can. They're really good at that, and they should do that. Those people who have different talents in different areas, they should capitalize on that. Maybe it's passing around emails to appropriate people or having a good discussion. Every person that we turn to our favor helps. And that may be taking a non-gun person out shooting. I've turned many people into pro-gun by taking them out and saying, look, it's just a tool, and it's a lot of fun. And see, it doesn't magically kill people simply because somebody pulled the trigger.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's great advice. I'm cautiously pessimistic, I guess, in this case. The gun debate, the gun grab. There's a lot of people that have thought since Obama was, back in 2008 when he was elected, that this was going to be the great gun grab president. I didn't believe that, because I knew that the gun control measures lapsed in 2004, and like you, I realized that there were certain weapons that were available for me to purchase that were not available prior to 2004. So the ability to acquire these weapons was there where it wasn't just a few years prior. I realized there's a massive spike in gun sales, a massive spike in ammunition sales, and most of that I thought was just, it's people buying into the liberal. There's a liberal coming to town. He's going to take your guns. But I'm telling you, when he got up on that stage in Connecticut and started talking about we're not doing all we can do to protect our kids, and then seeing the onslaught, the nonstop coverage, the mainstream and the elite talking about now using executive order to force gun control legislation, it made me think this is going to be the next governed by crisis event. I could be dead wrong.
Definitely. No. This is definitely the next governed by crisis. Luckily, though, we have other crises going on right now. We've got the huge economic debt, fiscal cliff thing going on, which is going to take far more of the resources than they want it to. So they can't capitalize on this. We've got this flu in New York that's capitalizing a lot of the media attention right now. I mean, the flu is not a big deal. I mean, it might be worse this year than other years, but it's not. I don't think it's anything to worry about at this point. So I don't know why the media is harping on it. In fact, I just did a podcast last night about, it's an epidemic, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it isn't all that bad when you look at the statistics in recent years. So I don't know why that's taking such a center stage. But it will be interesting to see. We will probably come down to an executive order. And hopefully somebody will remind the Congress that, you know what, you can overturn executive orders because there's some, I don't remember exactly what it is, but I looked into this at one point, and they've got the right to be able to, or the ability to say, no, you're not going to do that. But you know what? It's a matter of bring it on. It's not going to get better. Just bring it on. Let's make it. If you're going to do it, let's do it. Just bring it all the way, because the only way it's going to get better is for it to get worse. That's the attitude we came to in the 90s. Is like, look, we can't control this, so you might as well just bring it on. You can't get all of it. You can't take away all the guns. You can't put all us in camps. You can't round us up in prisons. You can't, put us all on no-fly lists and stuff like that. It just can't be done. They think they can do it, but they're wrong.
Yeah, you're right. They're 100% wrong, and this could be something that sparks something far worse than anybody's imagining. We'll talk about this on the backside of this final break. We'll be back with Rob of the Preparedness Podcast in just a few minutes. Hang tight. All right, guys, welcome back to Wedebeck News Radio. Charlie McGrath along with Rob of the Preparedness Podcast, our final segment for this January 14th Monday program. Again, tomorrow night we have Eric and I, hour number one. Bob Fletcher and I, hour number two. Will be a great program. Hope you can make it in and listen to that. Rob, we burned up, 3/4 of an hour just on this topic. Yeah, and it happened real quick. So it's going to be, I hate to use the word interesting because it's so pervasive, and it's so, this Second Amendment is so ingrained, at least in this region. You're in Arizona, I'm in Montana, Eric's in Colorado. This region, and even Gary, who's in, Kentucky. Kentucky, Gary? Is that right? Virginia. One of them southern states.
Virginia.
There's a whole big wide world away from Bloomberg's New York City. There's a whole big wide world away from Pelosi's San Francisco.
They're New York liberals. I hit a lot of informational websites every day trying to look for information, because what I do is I put out a post every day, Monday through Friday, called the Prepper News Watch. And it's mostly news stories that I think are important for preppers. Sometimes it's a cool thing found. Sometimes it's a prepper article on another site. Sometimes it's just news. And one of the sites I hit, and I'm hitting it less and less, is Business Insider. Because it's run by a New York liberal who has absolutely no clue of what real life is. He's in New York. He'll fly over all the other states and go to like Hollywood or something, and he flies all the way back. He has no clue what real America is like. It's all his pretty little New York liberal world, and he bases all of that on there, and he hires a lot of New York liberals. Not all of them. They do have some good stories that are worth reading and stuff, but it's just like, you guys you think because you're in New York, but you don't. You're absolutely clueless.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, they call this flyover country, and to them, flyover country is anything that's not on the left or right coast. And the truth is, this debate, this Second Amendment debate, I said in videos, I said last week on the program, most people in this country, unfortunately, they can't tell you that Goldman Sachs just announced they were going to have record bonuses for their crew, $13.3 to $13.8 billion. Most folks, if Ben Bernanke and Geithner and the power elite get their way, are going to eviscerate the debt ceiling. It's not even going to exist anymore if they get their way. Most people don't, they don't pay enough attention because it's not exciting and titillating to them in the world of finance or the world of money. They got to live in this system, but they don't pay attention to how it is created or how we're affected by it. But I have to say that is, I don't believe, the case when it comes to this topic. I think most Americans, regardless, maybe not, maybe there's the Bloombergites or the Pelosiites that think, oh my God, guns are from the hand of the devil himself. We have to get rid of every one of them. But even in New York, even in California, the majority of the people there believe in that Second Amendment and are not going to just ignore any assault on that. And this is why I said this could truly lead to the confrontation. Call it whatever you want. Civil War pushback, whatever. I mean, this issue could be the one that truly sparks the rest of the country to be forced to wake up to the plight that we are in.
It could. But I sort of disagree with your assumption that Pelosi and Feinstein and stuff like that they just hate guns and they think the evil spawn of the devil. I don't think they believe that. I don't think they truly have an issue with guns as much as they're making out. It's a control factor. Because there's, this is what I said, I think the last time I was on. Let's arm the teachers and disarm the Secret Service. Once all our royalty, a.k.a. politicians up on the Hill, no longer have the guns protecting them, then let's see them start talking smack because they're protected. They don't have to worry about anything. Just like everything else,
no
they
doubt
have
about
basically
it. I mean,
excluded themselves from reality. They don't have to pay the same taxes. They don't get the same crappy health care that we get, that we pay tons of money for. Disarm the Secret Service. I'm sorry, no. If guns are so evil, then your Secret Service detail does not get to carry guns. Sorry, it's just something you got to live with.
Yeah, maybe I should have added to that. They think they're the hand of the devil. They think they're beyond evil in the hands of an average person. But when it comes
because they can't control it.
Right.
Guns are the great equalizer, and that's the way it always is. We don't have the amount of tyranny here yet that other countries have because every politician knows that you can only push us so far because at some point we're all armed, and if you piss us off enough, guess what? We're all armed, and we can fight for our rights, unlike just about every other person in the country. In the world. Most people don't have this right. They don't have that coercive force to fight for their rights. That's why they hate them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, we only got about 6 minutes left, so I want to hear about what's going on over in the world of prepperdom. I wanted to ask you this, and I thought about this earlier today when thinking about you coming on here. The whole 2012 rigmarole, the whole spike in doomsday prepper, all that. Has some of the wind been let out of the sails of the pop culture prepper? I just made that up.
I don't know. And pop culture prepper is probably very accurate for a lot of people who have a pet disaster that they're preparing for. Although I have a feeling a lot of what you see like on Doomsday Preppers is basically the producers telling you, no, you can't. We already had somebody who was worried about EMP and economy and stuff. You got to pick something else, and they pull this tag out of a hat that says, okay, you're worried about feral cats, nuclear feral cats. That's what you're preparing for. Otherwise, you can't be on the show. Yeah,
we already got an economic collapse guy. He's going to be in the first segment. So
because you know what, they make these guys to look out to be wackadoodles is what they do, unfortunately. But there's a whole culture that apparently is kind of fun, and I think that a lot of these people are trying to show other people that, hey, this is mainstream. This isn't crazy, despite what a lot of the left and right coasts think. So I haven't really seen so much of it yet. I haven't really seen a whole lot of backlash either, as far as people pointing fingers, going, "Ha ha, you were wrong." I think it happens. I think it happens a lot. I think most people. There are a few, but I think most people are just like, "Hey, it could happen," and okay, maybe I'll make it a target date to be a little bit better prepared by. Yeah, I had a whole podcast on this of why you shouldn't use. I'm sorry, you can use these dates as a target date. Okay, 3 years from now, Mayan collapse. Okay, well, in these 3 years, I'm going to get better prepared by doing this, and this. That's my target date. And it's fun to say, okay, well, what if there was an asteroid collision, or what if there was a huge tsunami, or what if Florida did, whatever. If you can play those what if scenarios, you can take a look at your prep plan and say, how would I handle this? What would I do? Where would we go? How would we survive? Stuff like that. And they're kind of fun to toss around and stuff, kind of like going to a good disaster flick. They're fun, but as long as you like everything else, in moderation and don't take anything too seriously.
Well, and that's one thing that I really liked about you and your podcast and your mentality when it comes to prepping. You've been doing this for years and decades. you've never come on, or I've never spoke to you, and you're like, I'm waiting for this date, this event. I know this is going to happen on, the dollar collapse is going to happen on June 11th, 2013. So it's all going to hit then. No, you've based your lifestyle on seeing the trends of humanity and realize that it's best interest of you and your family to take these steps now.
Yeah, a big portion of what I try to push in the podcast is be ready for everyday emergencies. You're much more likely to be affected by a car accident or a flat tire or even a flood or an earthquake or a twister or a hurricane than you are a lot of these bigger things like hyperinflation or asteroid or whatever. I mean, so I think you're much better off starting with the everyday emergencies. Make sure you can handle those things. And
government gun grab.
Yeah, government gun grab. Well, you should be prepared. I mean, one way you can prepare for that is to buy your guns and your magazines and your ammo while you can get them. And hopefully you didn't just wake up yesterday and go, oh crap, I got to get this stuff now, because you're not going to find any of this stuff. Right. When the Clinton assault weapon ban expired, you should have used these past years, 10 years or whatever it was, to get your 30-round magazines for cheap. They were still available, but now you can get them cheaper. Build up your ammo supply, improve your weapons, get better optics or whatever it is that you could get out, because things were cheaper and plentiful. When Obama got elected the first time, that December, that first gun show down here, man, everything was just gone by the first half day. Within like 6 hours, everything was like gone out of the gun show, because people bought it up because they were scared. It's like, well, panic buys aren't really what you should be doing, because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to spend more money. And that isn't just with guns and ammo and magazines. That's with food, radios, computer information, water filters, knives, backpacks, whatever. Everything you need to survive and to be prepared, you need to buy now. Now, when the WHO, the World Health Organization, or the CDC comes out and says, hey, we're in a flu pandemic, that's not the time to go out and buy Lysol and masks and gowns and gloves, because everybody's doing it. Right. A prepper, being a good prepper means you need to look forward. You need to be some forward thinkers and say, okay, what is possible? Pandemics. Well, nobody's thinking about pandemics now. That means supplies for pandemics are going to be as cheap as they're going to be. I'll get them now, not when people are panicking.
Tell me how I can listen to your podcast, when I can listen to it, and where to go, because we're about to run out of time.
You can go to thepreparednesspodcast.com. All the new, which is basically from episode 114 on, every post there has a link to iTunes. There's a direct download, and I'm putting all the newer ones on YouTube as well.
Cool. Very cool. I'm glad to hear you're doing that. And Walter's friend wife just dropped the link into the chat room as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. So hopefully we get to, because we didn't talk about your latest podcast at all. Hopefully we can get you back.
But I still had fun.
Yeah, we had a good time looking at the end of the world, the end of our freedom as we know it. It's always exciting. It's always exhilarating to think about.
I think what people need to keep in mind is that we are the people in control. They may think they're in control, and they may pass laws or executive orders that make them feel that they're in control, but the absolute bottom dollar is us. We're the ones who have the control. We have the power. We have the authority and the responsibility to make sure that they don't get away with too much. Again, flexibility, tolerance, and compensation, being able to give and take.
Accountability. Yeah.
But we're the ones who are accountable. This is our government. These are our laws. You're not going to do anything with the federal. That's not going to happen. We need to focus on states. State rights is what we're going to do.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we talked about earlier, and I don't know why the music isn't playing. Gary, I'm assuming we're still.
Yeah, no, he says time here, so that's it.
I guess that's it. We are out of time. All right, Rob, thepreparednesspodcast.com. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we'll get you on again real soon. Guys, please stay tuned for Jeff Rins, because he's coming up next. We will see you tomorrow night with Eric Lovely and Bob Fletcher. Have a good night. Peace.